All right. Welcome to the fourth episode of Get Shit Done with Georgie. Today we have Mike Street, who is the founder of TechFam, here with us. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's everybody?
Um, we met about 2 years ago, I think. I think you were a judge at something, or you were attending something, or I went to one of your events, but just the tech ecosystem in New York. Mike is a super awesome guy. He does many things that focus on diversity and technology, and he just gets shit done. So, Mike, could you let the crowd know a little bit about yourself? Like, who are you? From your own words.
Well, if you guys don't know me, I'm Mr. Mike Street all over the internet. I've been working in the technology space really since 1994, if you guys can believe that. I'm a bit older than everyone else. I just turned 42. So I have been doing a lot of support and working to help. And really, I've been doing a lot of stuff on the back end. I'm not like a public face per se. I like kind of working behind the scenes, but really just working with a lot of different brands to help them with their diversity pipelines and helping them find technology talent to bring into their companies to fill many of the positions that they are looking for. So I work with organizations like the National Urban League. I've worked with National Black NBA, South by Southwest, et cetera, to make sure that some of these larger corporations are able to connect with tech talent that they might be looking for. So it could be coders or engineers or even some of the non-technical positions. I'm really helping them to really kind of source the talent. So I created or kind of inherited, per se, Blacks in Technology back in 2009. And then we changed the name to TechFam 2 years ago. And we try to create a community of, diverse people, Black, brown, Puerto Rican, Asian, white, allies, LGBT, everything else in between, to help everyone who are really interested in the technology space and really making a difference, or just working at some of these organizations, giving them the opportunity to connect with recruiters or connect with hiring managers and get into some of these corporations. And then I have a regular day job. I do marketing and PR. I work with a bunch of different organizations, but the main organization I work with is called Burrell Communications. They're the oldest African-American marketing agency in America. And so I work on brands like Toyota, Walmart, McDonald's, AARP, and really help them navigate the social space. So that's a little bit of what I do. I do a lot. I have a podcast. I do everything.
Jack of all trades, and not to
everything.
not to date you too much. I was born in 1994.
Okay. So you're a baby. It's all good though. We need everybody working in the space to make it happen.
Exactly. So you kind of answered like one question. When did TechFam start? So could you walk us through a little bit about how you got inherited it? You said you inherited TechFam. Like, how did it get transitioned to you? Like, who had it before, or what was the ecosystem like before?
Yeah, so Blacks in Tech really started at South by Southwest many years ago. So there's a couple of members who are a part of the original Blacks in Tech who are in TechFam now, like Lindy Johnson. She was way before, there was an actual TechFam and Blacks in Tech, because she was one of the early Black people that was actually going to South by Southwest. But it really had its inception there. There's a guy named Jeffrey Bowman who works at Ogilvy, but he also leads his own multicultural and total marketing practice. And so he was one of the people who was really instrumental in starting Blacks in Technology and bringing it to South by Southwest. And then so when he decided to start his larger practice inside of Ogilvy and beyond, I stepped in to take it over and really kind of bring it to where we're at today. So we we've partnered with a lot of different brands over the years. We've worked extensively with EA Games. We worked with PayPal. We worked with Google. We worked with Facebook. Everyone in between. And so what we do is we put together programming as kind of our main focus. And it's really not just in the New York area. It's really across the country because we worked in multiple cities. And so what we do is put together programming where we can kind of discuss everything that's happening with diversity in the technology space. And then for me, I'm also a kind of a person, I'm kind of the money guy. And that's why a lot of the brands come to me to help connect with the larger organizations. So last year I worked with Gravity on their Afrotech conference in San Francisco. I've been working with South by Southwest since pretty much for the past 12 years. Past 5 years, and bringing like diverse programming to Austin, Texas, and making sure that our voices are heard and everything else is on the up and up. So we worked a lot with like OEDC, which has money to put together diverse programming for startups in the DC area. So they've been a participant and we worked with them. Most recently, I've been working with Rodney Sampson out of Atlanta on HBCU at South by Southwest. So last year, we brought 100 HBCU and HSI students to Austin, Texas, and they interface with companies like Twitter and Google. And they really were able to kind of just immerse themselves in the whole South by Southwest experience and really get that going. Because it's really a great place to make kind of connections. Because I feel like at the end of the day, if you want to work in the tech space, you have to have an advocate who's working internally in the organization to really help you, navigate everything that's happening. Because a lot of these organizations have these long, drawn out, hiring processes. And you need someone internally who can help champion you, help you get your foot in the door.
Nice. And like, out of all the different paths that you've taken, not everyone in the community, says, I want to help others. I want to be that like person that opens the door. Like, what got you first interested in, being an advocate for diversity in tech instead of just, being a techie, doing your thing, climbing to the top, and just kind of like forgetting about everyone else. Because some people choose the latter.
Yeah, and I feel like for me, it's just something I've always been passionate about, and whether I make money on what we're doing or not, that's to me is very much insignificant. Is that I want to see anyone who has the ambition and the desire and the will to work in technology and work in that space, and who wants to work at companies like Twitter and Google, I want them to be able to have the opportunity to, submit their resume and to get their foot into that door. I've been very fortunate as I've been able to work with a lot of big brands over the years and be able to make my career that way. And I feel like you have to have a resume that is padded with some of those top tier blue chip organizations. And I feel that if you don't have an advocate who can say, hey, have you checked out this person, especially if you're a Black or brown person and working in this space, then it's probably not going to happen for you. Because unfortunately, when a lot of the teams ask white people to go out to their networks to help bring in talent, they're only bringing in other white people. So it's been really important to be kind of that person that, if I get a job somewhere, I want to make sure I'm bringing in at least 5 or 10 resumes to the HR team and saying, hey, have you looked at these people? Because they would be really great for some of the positions that you are trying to fill. And I'm trying to make sure that those people are as diverse as possible. Because I work in marketing and PR, and, only 2% of the community that I work in is of African-American or Latino descent. So the same problems that technology space has, the same thing is happening in the marketing space. There's a lack of representation that is diverse, so we have to take it upon ourselves to make that change.
Definitely. And that the what you just mentioned about like the connections part of it is really important, because if you have no network, you're not going to get those opportunities, because as you said, that person is going to bring in, their cousins, their friends, their schoolmates, people that are most likely going to look like them or come from the same neighborhoods that they come from. And that really decreases the chances of it being like a really diverse organization.
Exactly.
So I want to take a little step back. Last year you spoke at the Get Shit Done Summit, and this year we have the summit coming back up again. You want to talk a little bit about like when I reached out to you, like why did you even say yes, and like what came out of you participating in the summit, and like what did you think of it?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me at last year's summit. It was a really great opportunity to speak and connect with new people that I hadn't met before. I feel like for myself, like I feel like you can never be stingy in this space, especially when it comes to knowledge and
Definitely
experiences. And I feel it's my duty, it's my obligation, because I had elders who came before me who were gracious enough to do the same for me and open the same doors and share the same experiences that they had with me. I have to give back that way as well. So to me, it's very important that I make, every opportunity, and I'll never probably say no to anything anyone asks me to do. Because I feel it is my duty, and especially for anything that has to do with diversity and marketing or diversity and technology, because I feel like diversity and inclusion, it is the future. I just, I'm looking at Fashion Week and just looking at all the amazing creativity that is coming out of Fashion Week from New York. And you can just see the Black and brown influence that is happening on the runway. We've seen many, many more models of color, many, many more girls who are plus size, many, many more LGBT.
It froze. Are you still there? All right, guys, technical difficulties. The computer.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It froze for a second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. But I feel like it's really important to make sure that you give back and all saying that is happening, because that way, so it's extremely important. It's extremely, I feel it's got to be your duty. We have to say, if we're going to make this change, everybody has to be working on it. That's why TechFam is not technically a Black space, it's an inclusive space. We want people of all walks and paths and races and genders and everything else to be in there, because there's tons of trans people who are working in the technology space, and we want everyone to feel included and that they have the opportunity to if they want to work at a place like Google, we want them to give the opportunity to work. I
was like, what is going on? Is that a hand? What is that?
Yes, that is my cat. He likes to get on camera. Whenever I do a podcast, he's got to jump on the camera.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, so as you mentioned, two things I want to highlight. You say, don't be stingy. So I personally feel like there's a lot of people that give, but there's also like a lot of people that are very stingy with like the knowledge and resources. How do you find like a comfortable middle? So for example, some people might say, I'm not gonna give you any insight or information or any access to me unless you have X amount of dollars. Like, do you think, like, where do you stand on that? Like, how much is like a good point? Should you, do like sliding scale? Like, if you really don't have it, then I don't charge you. If you have it, then I'm gonna charge you 14 times as much. Like, how do you feel about like that knowledge sharing with a price tag?
it depends on the person, you know.
Okay.
For me, it's never been about the money. It's been about like making a difference that you know, you have to think about this. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind at the end of the day? I
Definitely.
want people, when people say Mike Street, I want them to think of a nice person, a person who was giving, a person who connected me to an amazing opportunity, not someone who charged me, you know, $5,000. You know, I save that for the big clients who I know can afford it. You know, many people approach me to do many different things. And, you know, I try to meet people where they're at. You know, I've been around the space. I can tell who's got, you know, who can sign off on a check and who can't.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I give people the opportunity to have access to me, and I want everyone else to do the same. Because when you look at other communities, like the Jewish community, you
Definitely.
know, a lot of them are making those patriarchal connections that help people get into high-power jobs, and a lot of us don't have that, you know, that level of access. You know, so you have to have someone inside of the corporations who can, you know, make those connections. And if I can be that person, then, you know, it is totally fine. I totally don't have a problem. There's tons of people out there who will testify that I've given them opportunities to really great jobs and help them get positions, and not gotten a dime from it. And to me, that's 100% fine, because I want to, at the end of the day, I want us all to be successful and all to succeed. And if we just do everything for money, then we're not going to win at all.
Definitely.
Especially now with the crazy person that we have as president.
Definitely. And I totally agree with the, you know, the everybody eats kind of mentality is like, you
Mhm.
know, there is enough to go around. There's no need for one person, no anybody at the table to be starving. There's definitely enough to go around. So I definitely, you know, have that same type of mentality. The other thing that you mentioned was inclusion, right? So we've seen this year a couple things from like the Shea Moisture when they had like the diversity ad, like the inclusive ad, then everyone kind of attacked them. And a lot of different things are happening where if you are a space that has been labeled as, you know, a black space, if you try to be inclusive, people kind of get really shady and get upset with you about that. And my personal opinion, I want to know your opinion, is like, in order to get to the level that we can be all like human and work together, we have to include everyone and just have, you know, this is a black space, but that doesn't mean I'm going to turn around and say, oh, no white people allowed, no Asian people allowed, but this space is made for people of color, but I welcome everybody. I'm not going to exclude anyone. And like, how do you feel about like what happened and like just inclusion as a whole?
Well, I mean, I feel it's now in 2017. We have to be very conscious of what we're of our goals and where we're trying to go. I feel like a lot of people get caught up in little smaller things and minutia, but there is a bigger picture that we're having. Yes, the Shea Moisture incident, plus Pepsi, plus all the other weird incidents that happened, those were unfortunate. To me, that was a sign that those organizations, you know, they really had to pay attention to where the marketplace is going. We can even look at today or yesterday, where the whole internet was outraged at a company called Bodega,
Yep.
for putting out, you know, their vending machine business, calling it Bodega, kind of co-opting the Bodega cat. And there's two white men that are trying to basically shut down, um, you know, what many communities have come to, you know, as their local bodega, and have access to fresh, you know, that might be the only access that they might have to fresh fruits or vegetables, or things of that nature. So it's really important for people like that to be aware of, like, what is your impact for actually creating this business? You know, you're trying to create this cool vending machine, but who does it actually put out of business? Like, what would your footprint be to communities of color, underrepresented communities, if you're trying to do this business? And that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of our, you know, white brethren don't think about when they create these businesses. You know, so there has to be a diverse point of view. There has to be an inclusive point of opinion. to make sure that some of these businesses don't do more harm to our communities than they're supposed to be doing good. A lot of people are just trying to make $1 billion. Well, it's like, that's not something I'm interested in. I was like, I'm trying to do something that's, doing good for the people, doing good for the community, so that we can all have access to everything. And if your only goal is to make $1 billion, then I think that your vision is very misguided.
Definitely.
So I feel it is, it's up to us to get those points of view across. But I also want to see, more women, more LGBT, more people of color, creating innovative businesses and taking advantage of technology that's coming out. We over-index on social media and mobile phones and everything else, but when you look at the creators who are actually putting out the apps, like, there's very few of us, creating those businesses and those opportunities. So we need to be actively a part of the innovation economy in order for us really to compete and actually kind of move our communities forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, that's why we have so, like, like at LSMI, we do the hackathons, and before we were calling it B-Tech, but we've officially changed the name to our motto. So our motto is build with, not for, because what we're seeing is that there's this constant trend of companies building things for communities that they think, it'll revolutionize these communities, but they're not asking the communities, what do you even need, or what do you even want? So they're just building for them instead of building with them. And so, the purpose of our hackathons is like, if you want to come into this community and build something, let's ask, someone that actually lives there. For example, Bodega could have been quite successful if they took the end of, let's, have these bodegas that might be going out of business due to gentrification. Let's have them be the source of the supplies that we put in the vending machines. Let's, seclude it to a certain section of the city, like below 60th Street, and where there aren't a lot of corner stores or bodegas around. And that would have been more helping the communities, instead of like having this big old title, putting bodegas out of business and mom and pop shops. Like, that infuriated me. Like, this is a staple and a very necessary thing, and you're just putting a whole bunch of people out of business, and it's not like making any impact or long-term influence in anybody's life, but like more of like a want than like a need that many people have.
And I feel like it's a lot of the people who are working in the innovation space, we really have to just be more conscious of our impact. Like, there's tons of companies who are receiving, $100 million, $200 million, and then they shut down and go out of business, because they aren't able to scale or convert their business. But I was like, a lot of that money could have went to, programs that help teach, not only children, but, some of the underemployed community about technology and coding. There's a huge movement happening in the Midwestern states where they're teaching a lot of like, people who are 35 plus, 45 plus, who were displaced because of the collapse of the auto industry. They're teaching them how to code now. And I feel like we need to be doing the exact same thing in communities of color, because coding is where a lot of the high-paying jobs are at. And we're seeing a huge spike in places like Memphis and like Detroit now. A lot of them are taking money and they're creating a new economy and a new workforce around coding for underemployed communities. So we have to like just really think about like, what is our impact, and how do we take like some of the people who are displaced. And it's like, I love kids and kids are great, and we can teach kids to code all day, but there's millions of people who are 35 plus who are out of work, and they need to upgrade their skills. And we need to be cognizant of that community as well, so that we can kind of rebuild our economy. So, making America great again isn't about, the crazy movement that Donald Trump has made. It's really about making America inclusive,
Definitely.
so that everybody can have a seat at the table, to quote Solange.
Yeah, so and there's definitely a huge opportunity for, that aging group and like that older group, because everyone's like millennials, like, we're cool and all, but there's a whole bunch of other people out there. For example, last year when we did the Ujamathon hackathon, the third place winner was a team of 2 seniors that built a blockchain, a tool that used blockchain. And that at that point, not many people were talking about blockchain much, but they built a simple Wix site and they came in third place. And there were about 8 teams, and these teams had like college kids that knew how to code and knew technology, and 2 seniors, 2 female women of color who identify as seniors, won the third place. So just thinking about that, and just being able to grant these opportunities to people, and if you give people a chance, they are a lot smarter than you think. Somebody might say, oh, they're older, they might not adapt fast enough, they don't know tech, but kids are going to pick up on things like that. But that aging group, I think we need to pay more attention to, especially from different diverse backgrounds. As the channel is named, but let's take a little shift. It's called Get Shit Done with Georgie. So I wanted to dive into, on a daily basis, like, how do you get shit done from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to sleep? Like, what are some of the stuff that you do to keep, productivity high and, that work effort steady?
One of the big things that I do in order to keep my productivity high is to really, at the top of the day, because I wake up maybe about 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm a very light sleeper.
God bless your soul.
So, I usually start my day around 5 or 6 in the morning. And I kind of, I'll just open up either a Word document or a blank email. And I will list out, like, here's everything I need to get done for today. Like, I need to have this call, or I need to create this document and send it out to one of my clients. So I really create an ordered list of the tasks that I need to get done for the day. And then I really think about, like, what is the smaller things that I can just do very quickly versus the larger things that I'm going to have to take like 2 or 3 hours to complete. So I really try to tackle a lot of these smaller task in front of me first. So like if I'm creating invoices for clients so I can get paid, or or doing a blog post or something like that, I'll do the smaller tasks first, and then I'll set aside time to tackle some of the larger scale things that I need to get accomplished. Like yesterday, I was working on a metrics report for like 7 hours. So you also have to build in time for your brain to like decompress, because working on something for that long of a time, like your brain starts to go crazy. So you have to take small breaks and just walk away from it, do something else. I'll watch a YouTube video or go outside or something like that, just to take my mind off of like the task in front of me. But that helps, it helps with my productivity, because sometimes like everything starts to get jumbled, especially when you're dealing with metrics and numbers and everything else. You have to take like miniature breaks in between all the tasks that you're trying to get done.
Definitely. Is there any like tool that you use that may be like tech based or like physical? I have like 7 notebooks at a time. I have a calendar notebook. I have my notes notebook, a personal notebook. Is there any tools that you use?
My number one tool is Google Keep. I use that for pretty much everything, because like I may have like a weird business idea at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, and I'll just open up Google Keep on my phone and just jot down, like, here's the business idea that I could do. But I usually put in a lot of my listicles or things like that into Google Keep. And it's good because, I can open up on my phone. I can also open it up on my computer. It's cloud-based, so it really helps me to kind of just jot down my thoughts and have them travel with me wherever I go.
Nice. And, we're coming to the part where we're going to ask questions. Some pretty cool stuff have been going on in the chat. We had Martin say, yes, they never think black. Talisha says strategic alliances with the communities that they are meant to serve should be a main objective, you know, and then she also said generational perspective can also be viewed as diversity, which definitely is a part of diversity, because a lot of people, they, even though they say diversity and inclusion, they kind of put a box around it, like, okay, my diversity initiatives is how many Black and brown people and women can I get into this space in a certain amount of time or in a certain amount of months, but they don't really think of how can I get them to stay, you know, who counts as diversity. There's, you know, age, gender, race, religion, height, you know, there's so many ways people can, you know, be diverse, and that just means different, and that just means has different perspectives and come from different walk of lives, you know. Socio poverty gap, or like, you know, income could also be a version of diversity. Let's hire someone that, you know, maybe grew up in poverty because we're trying to solve a problem that involves how can we help people in poverty. Then you know, they would be the expert on that thing. And so, you know, just thinking of diversity in different ways, and thinking of inclusion of, to me, inclusion just means how can we make sure that everybody in the room doesn't feel like, one, they have to represent their whole entire race, gender, or whatever their background is, and two, they feel comfortable in talking up and giving their individualized opinion. That's really what it's about. But before we jump to questions, you know, if you could offer any advice to anyone that's out there listening about diversity, technology, inclusion, impact, like, what would your advice be to people that they could take action on right now in the world that we're living in?
My new mantra for the past couple of months, it has been, you know, don't hold back. I feel like there are a lot of people who are, and myself included, we hold ourselves back from the things that we're really passionate about because we feel like we're doing it. We just want to do something that's safe, or we just want to do something that we know we can do. But we have other passions that we really don't act upon, or really want to, you know, or really try to push forward with out of fear. So I really encourage everyone, it's really not to hold yourself back from your fears. Like, I want to see everyone push forward. And it's like, if you don't know how to overcome your fears, it's really about like finding a mentor or someone that you admire who can really help you get from point A to point B. You know, for me, that was having mentors, because I have several. You know, it's been a game-changing experience. And one of the lessons I learned from my mentor, my main mentor, was that, you know, if I'm not I have to be 100% committed to be a mentor to someone else. And I was like, when you can humble yourself and give of yourself to other people and see them successful, and then be happy for their success, then you will ultimately be successful yourself, or have won in whatever it is that you're trying to do. And so that's kind of like the philosophy, you know, that I've lived by and have learned over the many years, is that, you know, there's a bigger picture. It's not about me, because unfortunately a lot of people in this space want to be like the Black savior of whatever it is. And I was like, that's not what we're trying to do here. I was like, we're trying to make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to be whatever it is that they want to be. If you want to be a painter, a baker, a candlestick maker, app developer, you have to, you know, you have to have the opportunity. And so I want to make sure that we're all, you know, we all take it upon ourselves and hold ourselves accountable to making sure that that happens. You know, so if you have an opportunity to bring in someone into a position, you know, it's your duty and your responsibility to, you know, get their resume and then give it to your HR recruiter. You know, it's simple things like that that can be life-changing for other people. And I feel to me, that's the legacy I want to leave, and that's the legacy I want to see other people participate in.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. You know, you have to be able to give in order to be able to receive, and, you know, it's important. And I've also seen, you know, a lot of people, certain people try to become the savior, but I've always had a team mentality. Like, I learned this mantra when I used to go to karate many years ago. my sensei said, team stands for together, everyone achieves more. So that's always stuck with me since I was like, what, 8, 9 years old. So I know, unless we're working together, we're not going to get anywhere. One man could, build a bridge in 1,000 years versus 100 guys could do it in 1,000 days. So just working together and just how can we collab? That's how I reach out to everybody. That's how I got you here. That's how I got you at the summit last year, because it's not going to take one of us. It's going to take all of us to really make that shift forward so that the next generation doesn't have to, experience these struggles and these missed opportunities. I want my kids to be billionaires. I'm fine with not being a billionaire, but I want them to have the opportunity and the chance and not have to go through, this like crazy phase. We had folks fight for us in the past for us to be here right now, and we have to do the same for, pay it forward for the next generation to come.
Exactly.
All right. I don't see any questions coming in on the live stream, which is okay. Is there any other words you wanted to leave with us? If not, we could wrap up, and when folks comment, we could comment back.
Well, I'll just say, everyone check out my podcast, which is called Smart Brown Voices. It's on iTunes and Spotify and all the other places where you can check out podcasts, because one of the things I'm doing on Smart Brown Voices is giving entrepreneurs and creatives the opportunity to kind of showcase everything they're doing in their respective spaces and sharing their expertise. The last podcast we did was with Jan, who's in Switzerland, and he's created the podcast summit. Mm-hmm. And so, so we're really helping to create a thought leadership space for diverse, intellects. So that is a place where people can kind of come and listen to a lot of the different experiences. We've recorded 87 shows so far.
Congrats.
Tons of inspiration and knowledge for you to kind of get and capture from the Smart Brown Voices. We've been featuring in the iTunes store. So it's really a great place where you kind of want to just listen to what everyone else who's working in this space is doing to help, just really push diverse thought leadership forward. So check that out.
Yeah, definitely. And then we'll have the link in the comments to the podcast and just more information about Mike himself. Check him out. He's Mr. Mike Street on social media. Great person, very helpful and very inspirational. And, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And, we should be meeting up soon. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.